Hi and welcome to The Courageous Collective, the podcast where we celebrate diverse women who dare to do things differently. I'm Rupa Baradva, a copywriter and communication specialist. I work with women entrepreneurs to help them get clear on their brand messaging, and I help them become more visible to their target customers using PR.
And I'm Vardeep Edwards, founder of The Branding Fox, a design consultancy that supports women in business with their branding and design needs. After working in corporate roles, we both took the leap into self-employment and created our own businesses where our skills and experience could really shine. But something we both noticed was the lack of women that looked like us at events, on speaker panels and in the media.
Which is why we created the Courageous Collective podcast. This is our platform to celebrate and champion diverse women who are smashing it in their businesses. In each episode, we speak to a female founder about the story behind their business. We explore their inspirations, the challenges they faced and how they've dealt with them. And we talk about what they're yet to achieve.
Welcome to the Courageous Collective and enjoy today's episode.
Hello and welcome to the Courageous Collective podcast. Thank you for tuning in today. We have a very exciting guest interview coming up. As you know, this podcast is all about helping women of colour, creative business founders be more courageous, and we couldn't think of a better guest to kick off season 2. I'd like to introduce you to Dolly Sembi, aka Dolly Curls. Dolly is a hair salon director who focuses on curly hair. Her passion for curly hair is fueled by her own experience of growing up as a South Asian woman whose frizzy and textured hair was considered unruly and too big. But rather than fitting in, Dolly has created a business which helps others embrace their curly hair. Do take a look at her social channels. The photos of her clients' hair is incredible. It's an absolute pleasure to introduce Dolly to the Courageous Collective today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, it's great to have you here. So, Dolly, you help women and men really live authentically by embracing their natural hair texture. Why was this so important to you?
Yeah, you're right. It's not just women, it's anybody actually. The reason why I decided to do this is because it is more than just hair for me. It's about embracing who you actually are. And we've spoken about this before, just being accepted for our hair texture, our skin colour, what we are naturally. It's so important to me. And my goal is towards anybody who sits in my chair, when they sit in my chair, whether that's a teenage boy, which I do get with curly hair, or an older woman with curly, thick hair, or someone who's losing their hair and they're not happy with the way. My goal is I want them to walk out loving themselves, actually accepting themselves and seeing the beauty in who they are, no matter where they are in life. Sometimes life can be really, really difficult. And my heart is always encouraging people to have that self-acceptance and see the beauty of where they're at. It actually astonishes me how often I see somebody, they're sat in my chair and I'm really excited about them and their hair. And I'm just like, oh my God, I love your hair. And they'll say something like, I hate it. And that happens so often. I've had, like I said, a teenage boy who had the most beautiful, tight, curly hair. And he was like, I hate my hair. I want it like beach waves. And I have to start and say, like, why? Why do you hate it? What is it about your hair that you... And it starts this whole narrative, which usually, it just, like I said, it never fails to surprise me how much people dislike who they are and where does that come from. So my job is basically to make people walk out that door feeling like they can connect with themselves a bit more and love themselves. That is my passion. So it's not just about hair.
Yeah, it's so much more than hair, isn't it? And it's therapy, really, isn't it? Being able to talk to somebody and just, I guess, offload some of those challenges that maybe that they're facing or have faced with their hair.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Sorry.
I was just going to say, like, your hair is such a big part of your identity as well. It's what people notice about you. But do you want to just tell us a bit more about your business? I mean, was it always your plan to be self-employed?
To be honest, I'm ADHD and dyslexic, so planning is just not my thing. I don't plan anything. But yeah, it wasn't my plan. But I remember, being quite young, probably not even a teenager, and drawing out on a piece of paper a whole salon. And the salon
Oh,
wasn't
wow.
just a salon. It had like a yoga area, it had a smoothie area because, it had a place where I sold really cool spiritual type clothing. And I remember drawing that, and I can't remember. I think I put my own name and my sister's name, and we joined it together. And I remember dreaming about that when I was young, but I didn't plan it. And then my parents told me as soon as I left college, I went and enrolled in a hairdressing course, and they were like, "No, you're not doing this. You need education.
Yeah.
This is not education." So I wasn't allowed to do it, basically. They wanted me to be a teacher because I wasn't clever enough to be a doctor. So it was like, well, you can't be a doctor, so teacher. And I just didn't want to do it. So I started it, and I then ended up switching courses without telling them to fashion design. And even as I was doing fashion design, I always loved getting my models ready and doing the hair. And it was just a passion. So I didn't plan any of it, but everything led me back. And when I had some difficult times, I was in my 30s. I'd always done everybody's hair. So as a young person growing up in a very diverse community in Bradford, even though I grew up in a white area, the colleges that I went to and whatever were diverse, and I just ended up doing everyone's hair. I used to literally glue on people's hair extensions at one point and do some, but I did all my black friends' hair. I used to do everyone's hair. So it was meant to be, but being Sikh, it was the one thing that went against my religion. They don't cut their hair, so always a rebel.
Yeah, no,
So,
I remember having that conversation actually with my mum. She'll probably hate me for saying this, but yeah, I think I was probably in my teens, and I said I wanted to cut my hair, and I hadn't, since I was born. Yeah, and there was a big like sharp intake of breath. It's like, you don't cut your hair like ever, So yeah, it's a big thing within the community.
Absolutely. And that's why I think sometimes I love having these conversations with the other South Asian women, because we had a lot of challenges. And I used to think, oh, why do I have to want everything that I'm not allowed? There's something wrong with me. But actually, there wasn't anything wrong with us. And I don't know, drawing that picture and then going to work in a salon at a very old age, having to work under girls that were much younger than me, I just had that determination at last, after doing everything that everybody else wanted and still not being happy. I just thought, no, I'm going to do what I want to do. And I was so determined. And then it became a bit of not a plan, but a goal.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so driven. And I promised myself that I would stand next to any other person that had been doing hairdressing since they'd left school, and nobody would know that I'd started in my 30s. Right. And that's always been the case. Nobody would ever know.
Yeah.
And within, I think, 4 years of that, I had a salon.
That's amazing. That takes a lot of courage as well to do that at that time of your life, and with family, and and after where your kind of career started. So hats off to you for taking that, John.
And also to have those skills. I mean, I just assumed that you would have learned a long time ago, but actually, as you said, you've had to kind of do that from your kind of 30s upwards. So amazing. Thank you for kind of sharing that. So what has encouraged you to be a business founder? Was there anything in particular that's kind of spurred you on? And what's the biggest lesson you've learned so far? Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I just talk. I talked over you. I did not feel like I've always had imposter syndrome. I think a lot of us carry that. Like, I can't do it. I'm too old. I didn't do this from the beginning. I can't. But I think along the way you meet people. So I have a woman in my life that is like a mother figure to me, and we did some voluntary work together, and then it turned into a relationship where, I'm neurodiverse. She was very, neurotypical. She could do things that I could, and we became kind of supportive of one another. And literally, that woman shoved me towards, living my dreams. And I'm so glad that she did. However, I think I had to do it for myself as well. Being brought up in a strict environment, it's not encouraged for you to kind of follow your dreams. It's not encouraged for you to be recognized, as somebody who is a boss or it's not like the generation today where, before they're even out of their nappies, they're calling themselves a boss. Do you know what I mean? We weren't brought up like that. So it was really difficult for me to actually recognize who was inside. And I've always been, a bit of a trailblazer and a go-getter, but that was hidden under fear and not being a good girl and once I literally pushed that aside and had others encouraging me that came into my life from a different perspective, then I think I had to encourage and be my own person that pushed myself to be a boss, to be a founder, to be a business person. And again, I didn't tick any of the boxes that make you, culturally give your parents pride. I was dyslexic, I wasn't academic, I was dark skinned, I had curly hair. So everything pointed to tell me that what I wanted was wrong. So it was a massive hurdle to overcome and to see myself as somebody who could run a business, who could, and some of it happened by mistake. I was asked by the person who owned the salon whether I wanted to take over because I was so passionate about it. And I still had the fire in me because I started later than maybe some of the people that have been there for years who just seemed bored of the job. So I was given that opportunity, and I did firstly go into it as a partnership with another girl. But after a couple of years, she left to do her own business, and then suddenly I was the boss, and it was like, oh, how do I do this? But I did it, and I've learned so much. And at the time, I literally was living in imposter syndrome. But now when I look back, I think, oh my God, you were really good at certain parts of that, and I give myself that kind of recognition where I didn't before.
I'm so glad you shared and talked about imposter syndrome because Rupert and I have had a few conversations around this, and it's so much more common than we realise. And I think it's quite easy to think when you're suffering with it, I say suffering, but kind of dealing with it, that you're the only one. And it's just so refreshing to hear that everybody goes through that, and that you've carried on regardless. You haven't let it, derail you or put you off. And I love the way that it's almost like that little picture that you drew of when you were little has come true now. And I love that journey that you've just shared with us, Dolly. I'd really love to sort of share what your sort of typical day looks like. I mean, you own your own business, you've got your own salon. You used to travel for clients. I don't know if you still do, but does that sort of chop and change?
Actually, it's the other way around. So I had a salon, and I sold this. Well, I let go of the salon about a year ago, because after the pandemic, people really chose to accept their authentic selves more than they've ever done before. Their natural hair, their grey hair, their texture. So I was trying to run a salon with lots of staff, and I was the busiest person there because nobody else could do curly hair. So I had to make a choice of whether I was going to continue being a salon owner or do what I loved, which is being creative and pushing the curl side. And my goal's always been to maybe have a small salon again and an academy. But at the moment, with some of the projects I'm doing and the education that I want to share with other hairdressers, it was better for me to freelance. So I work with a lady at the moment in her salon, because again, there was a lack of inclusion and diversity in her salon, and she really wanted that. And so we worked together. My day-to-day I love my day-to-day. When someone says my day-to-day, like after working in so many jobs that I hated, selling houses, writing reports and just never feeling like I could do my job, every single day I wake up and I'm excited. Even when I first started and I was just the junior, a very old junior at the time, I was a junior. I just was like so happy sweeping up. I was like, I'd rather be doing this and be in the environment that I love and that I thought I could never be in, then sat at a computer wanting to headbutt the wall about 50 times a day. So yeah, I'm back to back with clients. I literally, and I'm not saying that because I'm like so amazing. It's because there's a lack of curly hair specialists. So I'm totally back to back with clients. I love my work because every day we talk, I make people feel better about themselves. I educate them about their hair, but I also hear their stories and share their lives. And I just love it. You know, before I was looking after a lot of staff and it was all about them and I was really good at promoting the salon, but now I've had to work and I love it because I can concentrate on delivering a unique service for my people. I call them my people because I think all us curly haired people are a breed. And I can I can concentrate on that and I can hold workshops and I can educate other hairdressers. And for me, it gives me the opportunity to really speak about inclusivity, equality, recognition. So, for example, we spoke about this earlier. I want women, South Asian women with dark skin and textured hair to be recognized as beautiful. I want that black woman who stood in the reception of Tony and Guy for ages and nobody would approach her because they were scared of her hair to be recognized. You know, I want that little girl that sits in front of the mirror and says, I hate my hair. And you say to her, why do you hate? Because my friends have all got straight hair and they don't like my, I want to make that difference. And that's why my day-to-day is not just about, honestly, it's not even about just hair. It's about that. And I love that. I really feel like, and when you do something you love, it becomes a success. And that's something I've witnessed. And I used to think I'll be a hairdresser, but I'll always be left behind because I started so late. And I'm not. In fact, sometimes I'm leaping beyond, because I love it so much. So yeah, I don't know if that answered your question, but my day-to-day is amazing. I never get tired. I never get stressed. Sat at a computer, I used to have so much tension. Stood up all day talking to people doing the job I love. I could do it all day long, but that's something I have to watch because I can be a bit of a workaholic. So, yeah.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. I mean, your passion just comes through so brightly, and no wonder you enjoy every day because it just shows in when you're talking about what you do. That's incredible, and I think that's an incredible thing to have, and call it your kind of your job. So yeah. How would you describe your personal brand, Dolly? And is brand important to you?
I was thinking about this because again, promoting ourselves is, I don't know if you feel the same, and I know you do branding and marketing, but I find promoting myself so hard. But actually, I was thinking about my brand. When it was my salon, it had a very clear brand. It was easy to do. But for me, why did I call it what I called it? And I keep thinking back to that. My brand is because my clients were like, it's got to be about you. And I was like, okay, why? And it's because, first of all, Dolly was a name given to me by my dad. Dolly was, I don't know how I can kind of describe it, but it's me getting in tune with my authentic self. Dolly is who I am. But curls is also another avenue for me to accept authenticity. So Dolly curls to me just sums up, what my brand is about. It's getting other people to like who they are as well. And the curl side of it is, again, self-acceptance. So I guess the brand is something I'm actually working on at the moment. I have kind of got a little bit of a marketing team together, and hopefully we can push that. But yeah, for me, my brand means authenticity, acceptance of being who you are, not conforming, because I never have conformed. Dolly did not conform. and not trying to please a worldly narrative, to stand against, just what we've been taught. This is normal, straight hair's normal, light skin's normal. It's to go against that. So I guess Dolly Curls means all of that to me. It might not to anybody else, but it does. And that is my brand.
Yeah. And I think you're right. People buy people as well. And I think your customers gave you such great advice there, because I can imagine if I was your customer, the reason I'd come back is because of you. So I think they were spot on giving you that advice. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a massive part of why people are buying into your service is because of you. So I think you've got a really strong personal brand that comes across with your messaging and your passion and what you believe in. You've been speaking at some events about hair, I believe, and kind of also embracing this neurodiversity side. Can you tell us a bit more about that and why it's important to speak up about it, and also about how speaking engagements might have helped build your business and your brand?
Yeah. It's funny, when I was little, my dad used to call me a chatterbox because I used to talk so much. And I remember we had like a sponsored silence, and everyone's like, "You're not going to be able to do that because you talk so much." Yeah, even though I love talking, it's the one thing I fear the most, because being neurodiverse and having so many thoughts going on at once, sometimes I can get complete brain fog. I can get that kind of paralyzed feeling where I don't know what to say. I can't remember what's been asked. And so it's one of my biggest fears. I went to somewhere recently with my friend Erica, and I was literally hiding behind her because they asked me to talk on stage, and I was like, I don't want to do it. And she's like, just get on there and be you. You really, but so speaking at events is something I do. Like, I've done it for Network Rail. I've been invited to a few places where people have asked me to speak. But it's also a platform for us to get that message across, because I'm really, really passionate about breaking this whole kind of culture of texturism and colorism, and being. Well, I mean, it's rife in black, white, not so much in white, but the texturism is even Chinese cultures, skin bleaching and all of that, and it's shocking. And if we don't speak about it, if I don't put myself outside of my comfort zone, if I don't go to events where they're talking about South Asian women and men or colour, then nothing's going to change. So I guess, although I do speak at events, literally I'm a nervous wreck before it, and then I'm there and I breathe, but yeah, it's something that has to be done, I think, and it's one of my goals for this year is to say yes to every event that I'm asked to speak at, and honestly, it fills me with so much fear, but I'm doing it. I'm doing it.
Well, on that note, thank you as well for speaking on our podcast, because I mean, I think we've just been nodding along, haven't we, Vardy, to everything that Dolly's been saying, but stick at the speaking, because I think you have an incredibly powerful voice, and I think your story will really help other women and, well, other people really. But yeah, do stick at it, because I think you're great. Talking of which, tell us a bit more about how you market your business. So how do you market your services? What's worked really well and maybe not so well?
I think marketing, I mean, of course, it's such a big thing now with social media and people really promoting who they are and their businesses online. I mean, we can see everything now. Before, if we wanted to research something or find something, we'd have to go to the library or we'd have to wait for it to be put on. It's so different now. But for me, my biggest marketing is word of mouth. I haven't been good at being consistent on content. I find it a bit of a chore. Like, I just want to do my job. I don't want to have to record it and create content and, speak to people and make them perform. Or I don't enjoy that. I know it's like a necessary evil, isn't it, that we have to do. But my biggest marketing is it's when you, again, probably repeating what I've said already, but when you really love and believe in what you do, which has taken me a long time to find that, to be who I want to be, that sells itself. So your client comes in, feels amazing, then tells somebody else, or they see somebody else with curly hair in their office, or somebody walking down the street. My clients are like, every person that I see with curly hair, I want to tell them to come to you, because it's life-changing when you feel good about it. And that has been, I have such a successful business and such a high demand food recommendation and reputation, word of mouth. Yeah, just due to my background, I still find marketing, sitting in front of a camera promoting myself, I just find it cringe, to be honest. So my biggest gift, I think, is actually being so passionate about what I do that it sells itself. So that is my marketing strategy. Although I've got a new team now and they're amazing, and I think they're going to help me clear that block that I've got with marketing.
Yeah, and that's really smart to outsource the things that you might find challenging as well. But, having your customers refer you, I agree. I think that's probably the best way to get more business. And even just scrolling through what you have posted on social media, you can tell like the quality of your work is incredible. So, keep going with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do need to take more pictures
Well, I love
and videos of my work.
I love your social media feed on Instagram, Dolly. And I think one of the things that I would say, I think a lot of us feel a bit weird about promoting and marketing ourselves. But when you think about it from the visibility piece and how there's just not enough representation in your industry, in what you do and within the media, then, you kind of go, right, okay, we need to market or we need to market ourselves more for that reason. Because I know, I think you've had a similar sort of, sort of recognition when you were younger, not seeing many people with your type of hair growing up, in the media and stuff. And Rupert and I have spoken about this as well, coming from creative backgrounds and not seeing many women look like us, in magazines at events and stuff. So I think it's really, that visibility piece is really important. And, to integrate that as part of your marketing as well. But just in terms of sort of, you've spoken a lot about your passion and why you do what you do. Is that part of your motivation that keeps you going? Do you feel like you have to do anything else to keep yourself, motivated and run your day-to-day of your business?
What you just said, it sent me off on a little, creativity just was not recognized by the Indian community at all as a profession, it was almost like laughed at. Like my family, my mum's side were artists. And I remember my mum saying artists are always poor. My dad didn't appreciate my brothers being artists. They had to get proper jobs. So it was always like, what we are thinking, and I remember my dad saying, he's like, oh, there's a word "nai." I didn't even know what it was, and he's like, one of my daughters is, and they're just low caste jobs that they've said that in India. And I hate the caste system with a vengeance. It's, to me, it's inhumane. It shouldn't be happening still, and it actually disturbs me from my core. But it was so ingrained in our parents that there was low and high caste jobs, and that if you're educated, that's your only way out. And I'd love to be educated in an academic way, but my brain don't work that way, And creativity just wasn't. So my motivation, going back to your question, is I went to a big event that we have in the hair industry, not so long ago. And I didn't see one Indian woman there. I didn't see one Indian hairdresser. I think I was speaking to a lady who interviewed me, and I was like, "There's nobody but us here." And she's like, "Yeah, and I'm not in the hair industry. I'm actually here to interview." Do you know what I mean? So there was just nobody, and that's how little regard creative industries can have in our communities. So for me, my motivation is to say to that girl who wants to be a hairdresser, and her mum's saying to her, look, or that boy, go do a degree, like I said to my son. and they want to be a hairdresser, because you can be just as successful being creative, if not more. And funnily enough, in India, where I feel like they haven't had that strict upbringing as much as we have here, they're more motivated to do creative things. They dance, they do digital work, they're creative, they do fashion. It's if you actually look at Indians from India, they're actually moving forward a lot faster than the Indians here. Here, it still seems to be like education, doctor, dentist.
It's so backwards, isn't it? It's so interesting, and I 100% agree with you, Dolly. There's a programme on the BBC iPlayer recently called Streets of Gold. I don't know if you've seen it, but my eyes were like, I had goldfish eyes, because I was just like, oh my goodness, you know, there were people on this program who were more Western than what I would see, you know, out here in London. And creatively, you know, they were pushing boundaries left, right, and centre. And I just couldn't compare what I was watching with what I was seeing, you know, every day. It was incredible. And I think maybe that's partly to do with being, you know, first generation immigrants into this country. I don't know, maybe we were held to much higher standards than maybe our counterparts back in our homeland. I don't know, but it's really interesting to see such a cultural divide now. And I know we spoke about this earlier when you were talking about when you first visited India. You know, you didn't feel that you necessarily fitted in there versus fitting in the UK either. So it's kind of like we're kind of, I don't really know where we kind of stand as a kind of, you know, minority, really. We're neither here nor there. So I think that also, you know, has an impact on kind of the things that we do, the decisions that we make, and I guess inevitably the careers that we end up taking as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think we were a bit of a lost generation. Like, we don't fit in anywhere, but we're not, you know, like, I've heard my son's mixed race, so I hear sometimes, like, he's like, I don't know where I'm mixed race. Do I fit in that culture, in that culture? It's similar for us as Indian. We are Indian, but we were born here, so we're not seen as Indian in India, and we're not seen as English here. So, like, where did we fit in? Especially, you know, back in the day where there was such a culture clash, and, you know, there is a massive divide, I think, still, and I feel like there was a lot of fear in our parents of us losing them losing their culture, of, you know, becoming westernized, and they held on to it so hard to not allow us to have the same freedom often as maybe, you know, our English peers, that it actually held us back because they were stricter. Whereas my cousins in India, one works for Google, one's a journalist, they travel everywhere, they married who they want, you know what I mean? And it was like so different. But here we were still being told we need to be like conform to arranged marriages and certain jobs, or be. I think for me, my parents, I think I loved my parents, but I think their idea was, if you're not a clever academic person, then you'll be a wife. That's it. They're the two choices.
Two options. Yeah.
There's no, you can be creative and be in the film industry or a hairdresser or an artist or express yourself through who you, that just didn't exist for us. And sometimes it makes me sad, because when I see the freedom that some of the children have today, part of me is like, yes, they've got, and part of me is like, oh, we missed out. You know, our generation missed out.
That's so interesting in terms of your identity, because when I know we spoke about this earlier, when I first went to India, and you know, and they saw me as a tourist, as a foreigner to that country, which is just so ironic. And at that time, when I was growing up, you know, my home and cultural background life was very different to a life outside the home. And yeah, it's just really, it was quite a tricky trying to find where you fitted in, and, you know, combine that with what you saw in the media or what you're exposed to around you. Nothing quite sort of matched perhaps what you felt inside. So it took a while, really, and, you know, to kind of get to a place where it's all right. It doesn't matter that I don't fit in, or I don't look like that, or I don't conform, or I'm not in this sort of mold. But yeah, it takes time and a bit of growing up, I suppose, as well.
It does, but we did have big challenges. There was that disconnect. Like, who did we see in magazines that looked like us? Nobody. Who did we see in the Bollywood films? Really, no, that didn't quite fit either. Who did we see in the Western society that fit? Nobody. We just didn't really fit in anywhere. And even now, I feel like that generation missed out on representation. So a lot of the people at my age, I would say, have, you know, there is that kind of, you know, we missed out, or there is a little bit of resentment or a bit of confusion, or it is a bit of a lost generation.
So on that note, we are really keen to hear your advice, Dolly, for people who may be considering working for themselves. Are there any kind of particular maybe books or resources that you've felt have really helped you, particularly around building confidence? I know you spoke about imposter syndrome earlier. Is there anything you could recommend to our listeners?
I read a lot of books, but I can never remember the titles. But I listen to them. I listen to them audible books. So I've got, so just thinking off the top of my head, I probably can't. But the resources I've used are books, podcasts. I know she's nothing to do with the South Asian community, but I love Mel Robbins. I just think she's amazing. I love listening to her
as well. Yeah.
She's really good into it. And I think for me, I'm not a studier. I don't take it in. I could sit in front of a book for ages, but if I hear it or I'm part of something, so networking is really important. That was something I was really afraid of. But within the curly community, I have met so many amazing, experienced people, and they've become my friends and my guides. And when you're not afraid to ask questions, because sometimes we think, I should know this, so I can't ask that question because it makes me look like I don't know, or it makes me look uneducated, or like I'm not very professional. Actually, when you don't know, go and ask. And I've put myself in places that have been really uncomfortable at times. I might be the only person of this race there, and I don't quite know. I've spent money as well. Like, sometimes you have to take a risk and invest in yourself. I've been to America to do a curly cutting course. I knew that in New York, the first curly salons started in the 1980s. So I'm going there to find out what knowledge they have and what experience. So to put yourself in places that you maybe wouldn't, and take a few risks and spend a bit of money. I often go, I don't do it as much as some of my curly specialist friends, but I will go and do courses that I think, is that for me really? And I'll be, I've put myself in environments that are more to do with Black culture, or, I put myself in a salon where it was all white people, and I had to voice how I would like recognition for my hair type and my culture. And so it's putting yourself out of your comfort zone, like stepping out of your comfort zone, pushing doors. I used to stand on the other side of the door and think, I don't want to push that door. Now I'm like, give it a shove. If you don't like what's behind it, come back. Yes. Like, just give every single door a shove, give every opportunity a shove. For me, sometimes it's really overwhelming because I don't have a gauge of, too much or too little. And sometimes I get really overwhelmed because I've booked to do things. And so trying to find a balance and not just saying yes to everything, but yet still taking opportunities. That's a skill in itself. So just inviting others into your world, and you stepping into their world, and not being scared of, being just stepping out. And the other advice I'd give is, don't be your biggest critic. Be your biggest cheerleader if you can. It's really hard to do that. It's really hard to cheer yourself on. I've got a lot of really decent people that cheer me on. Not loads, actually, just people we've invested in each other over the years. And they're the people I turn to when I really feel stuck. And having that kind of little circle of people that you can pick up the phone to and say, I feel like this, and I don't, just having someone you can be accountable to. And then learning from the things that they say to you that have encouraged, to then start saying that to yourself. Or I always think, what would I say to my boy? My boy's my motivation. He's the one that I want to be an example to. He's the reason why I want to be successful in business. What would I say to him? And then speaking to yourself in that way, and learning to be your own cheerleader, learning to be your own parent, learning to be your own fan. that for me is the best advice. Just believe in you and what you're capable of.
Great advice, Dolly. I mean, I don't think I need to say more. I think there's some really great gems there. So thank you for sharing.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, I love it. Honestly, there's so many great tips there. My head is spinning, going, yep, I need to do this as well. But we're still at the beginning of the year, Dolly, and you sort of, I don't know if you've hinted towards some exciting plans. Have you got any kind of goals that are, something you're going to be trying to achieve this year?
Well, this year, who knows, maybe like, I might decide to have another salon. I might, it's always been my dream. I might not, but this year I want to use it as an opportunity to take myself out of my comfort zone. So I don't want to hold workshops because I'm scared, but I'm doing it. I don't want to like do further education because I feel like I won't be able to concentrate, but I'm doing it. I don't want to put myself in situations where I might make a fool of myself, but I'm doing it. So this year I've got a few projects. I'm going to be doing more photo shoots. I'm going to be working with different models. I'm going to be more creative. I want to put together, things that include my fashion experience and South Asian community and just thinking outside the box. And I'm also I want to help and educate. For example, if there's parents who have mixed race children and they've got curly hair and they have no idea how to deal with it, or foster parents or hairdressers in this industry, we've not been educated at all in different hair types and ethnicities. I want other hairdressers to feel comfortable when a person of colour sits in their chair. What language do I use? Am I allowed to say black, or am I allowed to say Asian? Am I allowed to, I want to be able to give workshops that help people feel confident to include others. And that is my goal for this year, is to start making a change, not just looking at talking about it, but actually create that change. My lack of organisation is what my downfall is, but hopefully talking about that as well, neurodiversity and the challenges of organising things and not overwhelming myself, but trying to create that change over this year is where I'm going.
I love it. Honestly, I love it. And I've got some curly hair now. It used to be curlier when I was younger. But I've struggled, and I wish I lived closer to you, Dolly. I'd come to you straight away. It's so hard to find people who know what to do with your hair, and I've been to many a hairdresser where they've cut it on straight hair and it just doesn't sit, doesn't look right, or I've come out and it's like out here when I've come out of the salon, so it really is, it's still needed, which is crazy, isn't it? But I know I love the inclusivity side of what you're doing, and I think you posted something about these basins which were fully adjustable for those people who can't reach properly. It's just little things like that. It just makes people feel included. And I think it's so important. And part of that, someone understands you, someone's looking out for you, and you're being thought about. So I do really love that side of what you're doing.
No, thank you. And I'm lucky because even where I am now, the reason why I chose it is the lady that I work with is so conscientious. She's so caring and inclusive, and that's the kind of people I want to be around, because they share that kind of ethic and it's important. We have to be and she's literally way ahead of me when it comes to sustainability and all of that. And we have to be the change that we want to see. We really do.
Love it. Oh, thank you. Honestly, thank you so much for being a guest on our podcast. I feel like we could carry on talking with you for ages yet. But thank you again. And we've really enjoyed chatting with you today. And you can follow Dolly on Instagram. She's at Dolly_curls. We'll also share your details, website and other links in the show notes. And we really hope you've enjoyed being a guest on our podcast, and we hope our listeners have enjoyed listening. And do give us a rating, leave us a comment. Your feedback means the world to us and really helps us to secure some amazing guests. So thanks for listening.
No, thank you. Thank you both. It's like being around other South Asian women who are making a change. It's a privilege. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. The Courageous Collective is created by Rupa Baradva and Vardeep Edwards. We really appreciate your feedback, so please like, share and follow us. Please also subscribe to receive an alert for our next episode.
You can find out where to follow us on social media in the show notes, and if you'd like to be a future guest, please do get in touch. Thanks, and see you soon.